entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Welcome to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being with us today. Getting the Edge is brought to you by Edge Media Hub. Ultimately, we are entrepreneurs dedicated to growth and excellence. And what began as just an idea to bring the community together, here we are 9 years later with over 100 partners and community involvement and members, and we couldn't be happier. Definitely check out edgemediahub.com for additional information on all of our partnership opportunities, ranging from every budget possible, depending on your desired outcomes and desire and goals. So definitely check that out. Plan for September 29th is our first night back out into the community after obviously a world shutdown. We can't wait to get back out, and it'll be a phenomenal evening. Tickets actually just went on sale for the event. They're $20 off now, which is practically 50% off through the end of next week. So definitely check it out. I just realized when we air, it may not be on sale. So anyway, just buy a ticket. Make sure you come. Check it out. September 29th. Our phenomenal Tampa Mayor, Jane Castor, will be there, and a great group of extraordinary individuals. So for more information, again, edgemediahub.com. You can check out the store. The recent issue of our second annual Celebration of Women for Edge Business Magazine is loaded with articles from amazing Tampa Bay leaders like Mark Cantrell with the Florida Orchestra, Santiago Corrada with Visit Tampa Bay, Moez with USF MUMA. Definitely check it out. You can even look through our article, our resource library there online as well. So much content. All of the previous shows, there are 100 or more on there. Just great life nuggets in a sense, and people giving back what they've learned and sharing pieces of them. And it's incredible. So again, I'm thankful to everyone that has been supportive of us over the last 9 years, just about, and we're just beginning. So much to look forward to. Again, thank you so much to all of our annual partners, All Trust Insurance, Pilot Bank, USF MUMA College of Business, and Visit Tampa Bay, WeBeam TV. We wouldn't be here without you, so we appreciate your support. Every week I come on and have the opportunity to interview and share stories and lessons learned with great individuals and leaders in the community, and today is no exception. And really excited because I have not yet we've seen each other out and we've talked briefly, but never really had a chance to talk. So I'm really excited to get to know even better Ernest Hooper, Ernest Hooper with, it's so funny, I'll tell you the backstory in a minute, but Ernest Hooper with Suncoast is now communications lead for VP of Communications
at United Way Suncoast.
United Way Suncoast. Yeah, they're a phenomenal organization, and they're lucky to have you. And even though we don't had too many conversations, I still know of you and admire what you've accomplished in the community.
I appreciate
That's
that.
all I'm saying.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I love it. Thank you again for being here, and it's a pleasure.
Kelly.
Thank you. For so long we're a part of, I think, everybody's daily routine almost, right? I mean, as far as reading you in the paper and your insight into it, I love the idea of a columnist in a sense. I love writing, so having that kind of old school column was always something that I wanted to try to bring back in some way. But
yeah, I'll always be grateful to the Tampa Bay Times for giving me the opportunity to be a columnist for 18 years.
18 years, yeah,
and
that's amazing.
It was a thrill to be able to connect with readers. I've had so many people who would come up over the years and say, I've never met you, but I feel like I know you. And that was always an incredible compliment. And it spoke to the fact that while I wrote about different topics and different issues in our community, I also infused a lot of myself. Mm-hmm. I wrote about my wife and kids, more about my kids than my wife. My wife wasn't really interested in being fodder for the column.
Right. I can imagine. Right.
My kids had no choice.
Right.
So no, but it was a good run.
Yeah. And I think, that's what's so great, I think, about life, too, is if we have that mindset, is that it's not just about one run, right? It's about multiple runs and chapters in our
Yes.
lives. And I don't think it matters where we are in age. It's about, and we were just having a wonderful conversation with Penny Parks and talked about the same thing, it just different life chapters. And sometimes we've given what we can give there, and it's time for us to move on to different things and time for something new, and to be able to have that effect and maybe cause some a positive change elsewhere. But life chapters are an amazing thing. It's never just about one.
They are, and I've had two since
Yeah.
I've left the Times. I was with the American Cancer Society for 15 months. I'm so grateful that they gave me an opportunity to make that transition from journalism to PR and communications. And now I'm with United Way Suncoast.
So
and,
what has that transition been like?
It's been really interesting. When I worked at the paper, I was always receiving pitches from different companies, media pitches, asking me to write about their event or their company. And so I thought the transition would be really easy. I've been receiving these media pitches for such a long time. Now I'm going to write them. This will be
But it's
a
for
piece
one
of cake.
company, in a sense.
Yeah.
Maybe
And-
easier if you
and-
think about it, because you don't have decisions and all these.
Yeah, but
But-
I've discovered that I've had a lot to learn, and I've learned a lot
Mm-hmm.
about how to pitch stories. I've learned that it's important to be brief. I started
Yeah,
out
that's always been a
writing
trouble of mine.
really long emails. Brevity is not my specialty.
No,
And
nor. Yeah.
I thought they were great, Kelly. I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever written.
Right, and then nobody reads it.
And no one, and I
Yeah.
received no responses. And I showed it to some of my PR friends, and they were just like, yeah, Ernest, it is well written. It's just too long.
Yeah.
People don't have time to digest this much. You
I
have
have
to
the
make your
same
pitches
problem,
shorter.
right.
And so that's one of the big takeaways I've had.
Because you have so much to say that it's difficult to say it so quickly to get to the point,
Yeah.
because I might miss a point that you needed to know.
Well, the key is just to entice that interest and invite them to learn more.
Right.
And
That's
if
great
they're
advice,
interested,
right.
they'll give you a call or they'll email back and say, yes, can you tell me more? So that's just one of the keys that I've tapped into as I've made this transition to PR and corporate communications. And it's a new chapter, it's a new challenge, and I'm loving every day.
Well, you have great leadership at Suncoast, and I think Jessica's done a great job with, bringing you into that community, and then just so many others, great individuals as well that she's brought on, and just, I think transitions she's made.
Yeah,
since-
she's put together a terrific team. Our Chief Marketing Officer, Jim Gillen, our Chief Advancement Officer, Carrie Getz, who I think you might know, our Chief Operating Officer, Bamitra Simmons. The leadership at the top is terrific, and it is permeating the entire culture at United
Yeah.
Way Suncoast.
And Bamitra, that name sounds familiar. It was in banking.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I
Yes.
know that name from.
Yes, she was with BB&T and
Okay.
I think Wells
Somehow I
Fargo.
knew that,
and
yeah.
She's joined us now, and just part of a dynamic group that is helping us move into a new era, really.
I was not familiar with Suncoast originally when in fact, that event that we talk about this, September 29th will be our first event since our last one, which was February of 2020. That was our New Year not-for-profit celebration, which is where I was able to feature Jessica along with 9 other awesome nonprofit leaders. But that opportunity, which is what I love so much about what I do, it really allowed me to learn about, was it Alice? Like your report
Yes.
system, the way you're able to create and calculate, bring together all the information and these reports that you put out to see exactly where assistance was needed in the community, right? And so you're
right.
not like going out blindly. I mean, you're very strategic. And I also love the fact that you support other nonprofits as well.
We do.
Yeah.
So ALICE is an acronym for Asset Limited Income
I didn't know that.
Constrained
I didn't remember that far.
Employed.
Yeah.
And those are the families that where people are working really hard, they have jobs, but they're just one unexpected expense
Yeah.
away from a dire situation. And so we do focus a lot on lifting up those families, and that's a big part of our mission. And part of that support we try to lend to them is through supporting other nonprofits. And we recently sent out our annual community investment grants totaling $6 million that went to more than 70 nonprofits in our 5-county region: Pinellas, Hillsborough, Manatee, Sarasota, and DeSoto. And yeah, it's a tremendous amount. I'm not sure people realize. I'd like to say it again.
Yeah, yes.
$6 million
Yeah.
infused into this community. I mean, I think that's tremendous.
Well, and that is what we enjoy doing too, is sharing those stories and making it, instead of, because sometimes as you pitch yourself to it, it's great too when someone else says it. Or I can't even remember, I just remembered Al's report, but I was touched by the fact that these organizations are there for these families. And honestly, I feel like they make up a bigger percentage of our community than I think people realize.
Yeah,
and
the last study indicated that 43% of families in our area are in that ALICE category. And
that is almost half.
Yeah.
I mean,
and with the pandemic, the next study won't be coming out until next year, but with the pandemic, I think it's safe to assume that number has grown higher.
I would say quite probably drastically dramatic. That's a new one for us, dramatic. Anyway, but yeah, that'll be a scary report, I think. But it's reality. It's kind of so many lost their jobs too.
Right. So it might be perceived as alarming to some, but we'll view it as a call to action. We'll continue to
come up with solutions. I mean, that's what I think it's all about.
Yep.
Is yes, we're going to constantly face problems. It's about having those organizations that can have the team and the resources to come up with, and to be able, I guess, to rally the resources, because that's part of all that you do. Because you give $6 million came from somewhere. You're able to rally that and bring people together because they see the benefit of where these resources are going.
Sure, and United Way Suncoast prides itself on being a convener. At the height of the pandemic in 2020, we rallied a lot of different corporations and raised $1.9 million in emergency funding for different nonprofits. And every single dollar went back out the door. We didn't keep any of it. We raised that money in 6 weeks, and then distributed to different nonprofits to make a difference. So that's another role that we try to fulfill. And then United Way Suncoast has its own programs that are making a difference, and we really have a dedicated and terrific team that leads with the heart. And
that's evident.
Yes,
it is.
Yes.
And the more that you grow, and that these key players come in and kind of I guess take their roles and fill the shoes of these just amazing beings that just our community is richer for it. I mean, and I don't mean from a financial standpoint. I mean just from from a humanity perspective. Thank you for all that you guys do.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And
we certainly are looking to inspire and create collaborations that lift up every community member. That's important.
I struggle with what's normal, because I always say, who's to say what's normal? You just don't know. I mean, but when you think about, at the poverty level and where, I mean, I guess too, because I've been a single mother on a mission for the last decade plus, and it's not easy. And I think, thankfully, the last so many years, we've done really well. But the first 5 or so were brutal. And when you have limited resources or zero to limited, we did face many very difficult decisions as far as, and I think once you get to a point in your life where all of the vanity is taken away in a sense, and I'm no longer, I was in real estate forever, and when the market crashed, I decided starting over, and I was going to pursue what was going to be true to my heart. Mm-hmm. And it's really been a decade plus, but definitely not an easy decision to make. And but I think when you live that close to being in a position similar to these people, and people may not, because I made sacrifices, and we were very, we did live in temporary housing briefly, thankfully 3 months, but my daughter was a trooper, and I was so committed to my dream of pursuing what I felt was my destiny and purpose to do that I was able to,
Yeah, well, like you, we have a lot of families that are having to make choices, and
Yeah.
sometimes those choices are really difficult. Sometimes they're choosing between fulfilling their prescription
Yeah.
or paying the utility bill.
And I don't think until you know, like, what it feels like to have $20 left, that's it. I think but I think for my world, it has helped me. I don't think you can truly relate to people unless you've had tough times. Those tough times, what doesn't kill you does make you stronger. And as, especially now, thankfully, we're in a good situation, but I have empathy because I've been there, and anyway, I just feel like.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. We have a lot of people in our community who've had those struggles but aren't necessarily willing to talk about them.
But I think if we don't talk about them, then if I would love for somebody to say, well, look at what she's accomplished, and she went through what I did, or she committed all these years, and where you're like, and I'm totally focused, and in fact, I eliminated everyone out of my life that wouldn't be supportive. But you have to get rid of negativity, but I think if people don't share what we've been through, then it just didn't happen overnight. Nothing does. It's a journey.
Right, and I think we have to eliminate that stigma of that's attached to struggling, and help people understand that
it's a part of the process.
Yeah, it is.
It's a part of the journey, and it's really needed to make you into who you become. Because you almost learn to appreciate the obstacles. Because you just like bring them on. After a while, it's just like because you get to the point where there's nothing that can happen in my world that I cannot handle because I've already been through it all. And I think it's just like anything when things aren't just given to you and you work for them and you work hard for them. Because I probably average about 11 hours a day, but I love it. It's not like I'm doing something I don't want to do. But yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah,
but if you are dedicated, you can truly, I am here to tell you anything that you truly want to make happen, you can. And I'm proof.
And there are a lot of challenges that people encounter, financial challenges,
Right.
professional challenges, domestic challenges.
Yeah.
I've in the past, I've spoken at events for the Spring Domestic Abuse Shelter, and I know the challenge that population goes through. So it's all about raising awareness and helping people realize that they can overcome.
Well, and that's what all our stories are about. Every platform that I work in, everything that Edge does, we share stories through here, we share them through our articles, but everyone has a story, and we all have a background. We all came from somewhere, and we all have our own stories. And it's interesting, and I look for the trigger points as I ask questions, because I'm always looking for what led from one move to the other. But there are so many stories of sacrifice and struggle, and that is what is so amazing. You almost have to have that to get where you go. And failure used to be a word like that would scare me to death. And I'm like, failure's not an option. And failure isn't from the giving up standpoint, because if you give up and you fail, then you failed. But like when things like Thomas Edison, like the light bulb, I found 10,000 ways it won't work, right? But eventually you'll find the one that does. If it's just trial and error, failure. And
I think what's helped me in my career, in those moments where I had doubts if I could succeed, could I succeed
Because
when
we all
I
have
covered
them,
the NFL?
right.
Could I succeed when I started writing community columns? What helped me is having mentors and colleagues who had shared with me that they had the same kinds of doubts and they had the same kinds of struggles. And there are some of the most successful business people in this community who will tell you, once upon a time, I wasn't sure if I could make it. Once upon a time, I had to go to my creditors and my vendors and ask for an extended line of credit because we were struggling to make ends meet. And they persevered, they overcame, and now they're enjoying a lot of success.
And that's what it's all about. It really is all about resiliency, and it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. You hear that saying all the time. It really is about how many times you get back up, and life is brutal.
Yeah, what do they say? A setback is just a setup for a comeback.
And I believe it. I think, again, I think if we stay course and we're able then to look back, we can almost see then why so much happened as it did. because we're able, because if that would have happened, then this wouldn't have happened. If that hadn't happened, then this. Had I gotten that partnership that I wanted, I wouldn't be in a position to get this one today.
Yeah.
So sometimes bad things or things that we think are bad at the time, I feel like you just need to accept what it is, and it just wasn't right. And if you hold the course long enough, that will become evident
you can always look back and identify those serendipitous moments.
That you have no idea in the time. I think a lot of times when we see, even if you believe in that and you're watching and looking for signs and elsewhere, a lot of them times they're not necessarily even maybe they don't fit today, but if you hold on to them, next week you may have something come up and you're like, oh, that's right, I saw. And I don't, it's interesting how that all, I love Andy Gold. I'm sure you've met Andy over the years and the university, and he's always written like serendipitous type articles anyway. Well, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Tallahassee, born and raised. My parents taught at Florida A&M for their entire lives, and really proud to be the son of the late Gerald and Ann Hooper. They were terrific people.
Yeah, just the way a light shines, like in your eyes when you sit and talk about them.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I mean, you learned,
my father taught art, my mom taught French, and they instilled in me and my three siblings a drive to acquire our education and to do well in school, and it was always expected of us.
Yeah.
And so.
Now, did you go to that university then as well?
I didn't. I'm a Tallahassee Gator.
Okay.
I left Tallahassee and went to the University of Florida.
How did that sit?
Oh, they were fine with it.
Supportive.
I had some friends who wondered why. Those who were devoted to Florida State, but it's all good.
Yeah, but we all have to fulfill our own paths. And
yes.
So it's too often, I think, it's, too many people care or they want to have a say so, and everyone thinks they know best, and that's what's so interesting. And every time anybody says anything, even me rambling on right now, is all about my experiences and things. It's all just about our experiences. So it's hard to take everything everyone says to heart. You can't. I think when you're young and impressionable, sometimes we do.
And sometimes you just have to go where the wind takes you, so to speak.
And that's been my philosophy. I mean, especially I think these latter years as I've branched out the last 10. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster ride, and I'm just strapped in. How do I say that? It is hard, I think, sometimes when uncertainty. A lot of people need fixed, and I think that's why a lot of people are in W-2 type positions, and they need fixed, and there's others that we work on hope and just a faith of a belief.
And I think we're seeing more people cast their lot as entrepreneurs and independent workers. I have a lot of friends who aren't interested in a 9-to-5 job, and they're making ends meet by taking on different contracts, and just really they're in business for themselves.
Right.
And it's really interesting.
I will say, it's much easier to work for someone else that is done.
Let me be clear. I'm one of those guys who wants to work for someone else.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have that entrepreneurial spirit, but I certainly appreciate those who do. And among my circle, it seems to be a growing number. Even during the pandemic, I think a lot of people have taken this opportunity to
pause and reflect.
Yes, and to readjust and start that new chapter that we were talking about.
I think when things happen in our life like that you never expect, and that is one, I think, positives that came out, or hope came out of that, with everyone, that pause and that moment to think, what is truly important in my life, and I think so often that's been my crusade, and I'm just getting started, but just having people, those instincts and everything we feel are there for a reason, those passions, and I think just too often society and family, leads us in other ways, and then ultimately, we get to a certain point in our lives where we're still struggling as if we're supposed to be doing something else, because that need for us to do something, it's great if we can find that then, and that passion of ours, which I think you've aligned with the right companies, that you've been able to fulfill that fire within you.
Well, I've always appreciated being connected to the community. I had that as a community columnist.
And 18 years having a voice. And knowing that people are reading, and obviously if they kept you 18 years, that you were doing something right. And no, I heard just a lot of great stories about you. I think the first one of the years we met back in like 2016 maybe at an event, but I know you were very admired, or still are, in the community.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think one of the keys for me was just being authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was called upon to express opinions, and I couldn't make those up. I couldn't fake an opinion. I had to write from the heart.
Something, right.
I think I would have been exposed.
But I think that's why they respected you. I mean, that's why you gained the respect that you did.
I think so.
Right.
I think people could sense that.
Yeah. I guess even now, I think I'm starting to get a little more opinionated just about things, but or stressing, because you're passionate about things, so it's harder. But you want to try to stay neutral so that you don't. But it's difficult when you feel so passionate.
And I think the key is not just expressing an opinion, but channeling your passion, as you say, into action and making a difference.
I love that.
My father always said, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Get out of the way.
You recognize that there needed to be new paths created for business people and entrepreneurs, and you set out and created those.
Right.
You didn't wait for someone to come along and create one for you. You created one for yourself, and I like to say, and I can say EDGE does this, as we rise, we must lift.
Yeah.
And so as you have succeeded, you've reached back and helped others.
Yeah, and one of my favorite quotes is, I think it's Henry Ford, if we're all moving forward together, then success takes care of itself.
Yep.
And that has been one of my favorites. Aside from the Benjamin Disraeli that says, it's not good just to share your riches, but to reveal to him or reveal to others their own. And that was on a Criminal Minds episode like 20 years ago. And you wonder why these things stick out to you the way they do.
They do.
But I heard that connected with me for a reason. And
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I would do often in my columns, I would say seen on a bumper sticker, and it'd be some pearl of wisdom. And I think we can find pearls of wisdom.
If you're looking for them,
on
you absolutely
bumper stickers,
can. Yeah.
on T-shirts. There's a commercial on right now where the announcer says, you don't have to be amazing to start, but you have to start to be amazing.
Yeah.
It's a Toyota commercial. I'm not supposed to be divining wisdom from a Toyota commercial, but there it is. I think that's so true.
Those little pieces are there everywhere. And I think those, whether you want to believe in serendipity or not, I mean, those pieces are there to help guide us on our each individual paths, I feel, too. Us seeing things and catching things, or me hearing that 20 years ago. I just believe there are no accidents, and everything kind of happens.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, as it should. And if you pay attention, you can take this in. Dan Bavaro has a great story with Bavaro's. Have you met Dan over the years?
I haven't met Dan.
Bavaro's is right around the corner from the studio downtown. Kendra, our community director for EDGE, has enjoyed making video clips for him. He's just another authentic individual. He is, but he started Bavaro's Italian Napolitano Pizzeria about 8 years ago. But he tells the story about, hey, they'd come here. There wasn't even anything downtown at the time, and they were going to move here from the New York area. And he was about to leave and head home, and they were not going to do it. He'd met with the downtown partnership, and anyway, but as he's about to leave, there's a newspaper right there, probably the Times, and on the front page is a picture of a Neapolitan pizza, and it's spelled out, and for him, that was the sign he needed. But had he not been looking, and in fact, he made the call right then and said, all right, we're staying,
right.
We're going to do this. Because that to him was that final push that he needed to okay.
Yeah, no, I think we could all have those signs, yeah.
If we look for them, and if we pay attention. So let's talk, so after college, what did you focus, journalism, I'm assuming, in college?
I did, actually public relations, but I was told to go down to the school paper and get a couple of clips for my PR portfolio. And I was on the high school newspaper, and then when I started working at the Independent Florida Alligator, I caught the bug again and just decided, this is what I want to do. And I started out in sports, actually, and I spent the first 11 years of my career covering high school sports.
Okay.
And then I transitioned to covering the Bucks and the NFL for the Times. It was a while ago, but it was again a great experience.
It's a part of your journey, though.
Oh,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure,
and it's kind of
for
what makes
sure.
all of that is, I think, they're nuggets of what has
Right.
made you who you are today. So before I forget, you said alligator, and I thought of Kathy Fountain, who's a great idol mentor of mine. Kathy, she was on. Do you know Kathy from?
Yeah.
And she was on she talks about being a part of the newspaper in college.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's the alumni of the Alligator is terrific.
Yeah.
So
A lot of great. It's just interesting when you hear stories and they connect. You're probably not there. I don't know when you guys were there, but you never know. She's pretty cool.
yeah, no, Kathy and
She's
Frank
awesome.
are great.
Yes, yes.
And
why Tampa, or how did you get to Tampa? I was trying to think. So you're in Tallahassee.
So I worked for a couple of smaller papers
Okay.
in Leesburg, Florida, and then back in Gainesville at the Gainesville Sun, and then I left the Sun to join the Tampa Tribune in
Okay.
a long time ago.
Okay. And so that's when you started with the college or the high school sports.
Yeah, I was
That's
doing high
great.
school sports that whole time.
That still would be great seeing those young players, and I just think that'd be very. I mean,
You
every
know,
piece
a
of
lot
that
of
is
people
rewarding.
ask me, do I miss covering sports? And while I did cover the NFL for 4 years and loved that part of it, if I miss anything, it's
bet.
football Friday nights and going down to the field at the end of the game and interviewing that sophomore or junior who scored the winning touchdown.
Yeah.
And they're just giddy to talk to a reporter.
Right.
It's
And
there's
thankful for
Yes, there's an innocence there.
Yeah.
Not that professional athletes are rude or disrespectful. For the vast majority of them are very polite, but they don't have that sense of excitement that you'll find in a high school
Because it's almost
student.
expected, right?
Right, right.
They're
It's
like,
part
where's
of
the
the
media?
job.
Right,
Yes,
right. And then, but in
yes.
high school, it's more like grateful instead of. I'm trying to look for that word I'm looking for, but entitled, kind of, where you feel.
I'll tell you one of the best moments I've had as a journalist. I covered a young man named Andrick Frazier who played at Tampa Prep. And Andrick went on to Vanderbilt. He transferred to USF, earned his degree, has become a successful business person here in the community. And I was at his house one night, and his wife came over with this big binder. And I opened it up, and it's articles that I had written about Andrick when he was playing high school basketball. And she said, and don't think he doesn't look at these at least once a week. And to know that Andrick and probably a lot of other high school athletes have these scrapbooks with my stories.
Right.
It means the world to me.
And it means the world to them.
Yeah.
It's something
to
that-
know that I'm a part of their cherished memories, small part, of
And
course.
something they're going to. I
But
think
to
it's
know
bigger
that
than
I
you
played
think,
a role in that
Yeah.
is awesome.
Well, and I think too, you say small, but we don't have the I guess benefit or pleasure, of having a type of scrapbook like that for every part of our lives, right? So
Right.
that is one where you've given them something that it's tangible in a sense they can hold, and it is something they can keep forever. Versus, because I think too often there's all these amazing points in our lives, but not all of them are captured, right? By
Right.
some brilliant writer that's going to bring that and this many points or this and capture that. That's,
and it allows them to relive the moments.
Right.
And that's a thrill.
yeah, and leading them hopefully to other places that they go, or again, I don't think you even realize how significant even the smallest of events are in our life, and how they could potentially determine who we become as we get older.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
we downplay a lot of that. Anyway, it is very cool to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so aside from beyond that side, when you were interviewing or doing the high school, what else stands out that might be like one of your favorite memories, or even what's the article that you've written?
Well, I have a lot of people ask, why did you give up sports to become a community columnist? And we probably don't have enough time to tell the complete story, but it stemmed from a couple of things. I was gearing up to cover the Super Bowl in 2001, and my father passed away. And so I had to go to Tallahassee to help my mom plan the funeral. And at the funeral was an old girlfriend. And my sports writing buddies, being the knuckleheads that they are, after the service, they didn't come up to offer condolences or to tell me how bad they felt. They came up and wanted to know who that girl was over there. Who's that girl? And I was like, oh, that's my old high school girlfriend. And they were incredulous. They were like, no, that's not. She's way too pretty for you to have ever gone out with her. And so I said, oh, I'll show you. And so, I pull in my stomach and I puff out my chest and I walk over to say hello to her, and I give her a big hug and we smile, and I thank her for coming. And then on our way to the cemetery, my brother begins to ask my wife, hey, did you see Ernest talking to his old high school girlfriend? He had his stomach pulled in, he had his chest puffed out. And I'm like, oh my God, why?
Trouble,
yes,
right?
why are you doing this? So it kind of turned into this moment of levity on the day we buried my father. And when I came back, I applied to be the community columnist, and I had to write a sample column. And the editor said, include some opinions, include some perspectives on the community, and write a little bit about yourself. So I got the job. And he said, Ernest, we had a lot of quality people apply, but the reason your column stood out of all the others is because of that anecdote you put in there about seeing your old high school girlfriend at your father's funeral. So I always say the reason I went from being a sports writer to a community columnist is because my father died Super Bowl week, and my old high school girlfriend came to his funeral.
That's so funny. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And again, things just work out so crazy. What made you apply for that position?
Well, that's kind of the other piece. My father had
my
father had been sick for a long time, and his passing was not a great shock. But I kept asking myself, why Super Bowl week? Why the week when I felt like it's going to be a pivotal moment in my career, Kelly. I was going to write the game story.
And this was
Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl only comes every yeah.
All of the leaders in the sports writing industry were going to wake up in Tampa, Florida, and read my story. So I was certain it was going to parlay into a job at another paper. And when I didn't get the chance to engage in that opportunity, I felt like the timing of my father's death was trying to tell me something. It was trying to tell me maybe I needed to be home a little bit more. Maybe I needed to spend, at the time, was my wife and my two sons. And again, serendipity. Little did I know that later that year, my wife would give birth to our third child. And because I had made that transition, I was able to be here and not on the road covering the Bucks.
Yeah. And that's a great story.
Yeah,
and it's just great too that I think getting to a certain point where you're questioning things, because I think we all have to get there. Had you looked at it from more of a negative standpoint, and just focused on, just I guess the inconvenience of the time, right? You wouldn't have seen the bigger picture of that opportunity where it allowed you to kind of look at another option.
No, I didn't see it as a negative at all, but it was sort of a riddle to explore.
Right, right. And everyone, I feel like, should look at things that way instead of, I think, automatically assuming that it's something bad or I mean, I don't know. We can make something good out of, As things pop up in our world, I think it's always to maybe push us elsewhere or get us to think. But I think change is difficult for so many.
Yeah, well, and I think the important thing is to look in the mirror whenever
Right.
you're going through one of those things and have that conversation. Start with yourself. When I covered the Bucks, Derek Brooks, the Pro Football Hall of
Yeah.
Famer, I remember specifically they went out to Oakland and just got clobbered. It was like 45-0. And Derek actually played well. And we went to him after the game and said, Derek, what's it going to take to turn things around? And he said, well, the first thing I'm going to do is go home and look in the mirror and ask myself what I can do to improve. Mm-hmm. We're like, but Derek, you played great. He's like, it doesn't matter. I can get better. And I start with myself before I point the finger at anyone else in this locker room. And I've always taken that to be good life advice,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Let's not blame others for what's happening.
We
Let's
give our
look in the
control
mirror.
away when we do that, is how I look at it, right? If I blame me for what's going on, then I have control to fix it.
Yes.
If I blame someone else, I have no control over them. So that means that I have no control over the situation.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable.
And sometimes you don't have control over the
Yeah.
situation, and you have to
Right.
you have to accept that.
Right.
And say, well, what can I control?
Right.
What can I change? Let me channel my energy in that direction instead of placing my energy or my anger
Right. A blame on.
or blame
Right. Or, right.
with something that you can change.
And
So-
yeah, no, I've watched him and met him quite a few times over the years. Because again, being around, I mean, even it was like in the 90s, I think, in the mid 90s when he was.
Yeah. I think he joined the team in '96.
Oh wow! Yeah, he was in real estate. He was he was partners with one of the companies that I worked with, so he was around quite a bit. But listening to him talk, and he's a great leader.
Yeah.
And he's
Well, he's humble.
yeah.
And
that's what.
and that's another key to leadership.
Yeah, to me that is the number one attribute or characteristic, or that someone can display or have. I mean, you either have it or you don't. It's part of you or you're not. It's something, that you don't. Anyway, but yeah, that's what I think is so great about Tampa Bay is all of the leaders and people that are humble and willing to give back, and that's really everybody that's a part of everything we do is that way, where it's just more of a compassionate. They look at things more from, encouraging
I
others.
always say Tampa is the biggest, Tampa Bay is the biggest small town in
Yeah.
America. And we're still a community where people want to shake your hand, where people want to pat you on the back.
And give hugs. We don't
And-
give them as
and
much anymore with COVID,
Not,
but
yeah,
I mean,
not
we're
as
all
much,
huggers.
but yeah, we are huggers.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain that to someone the other day. I think some of that is rooted in Tampa's Hispanic and Italian roots, and some of that's just rooted in the Southern hospitality that we live by.
Right, and so many of us come from, I've been in Tampa over half my life now, but, I think too that I grew up in the Midwest, so having that Midwest values, I think are, they can blend so well, with, you can tell a lot of the Midwesterners, around, because they do have a similar ethic or value system,
Sure,
or honor
sure.
system. I'm not sure how you say it.
And I think there's a willingness to help, and
yeah.
I see that all over this community, especially when the chips are down.
Yeah.
No one rallies like the people of Tampa Bay.
And we saw that as so evident during the shutdown and everything, and
Yep.
everybody trying to see what they could do to help others. And it made me proud to be a part of the community. It really does. And I think we're very lucky to live, and I do look forward to traveling and being and
Right.
doing a lot. But Tampa will always be, home base.
Well, and just to bring it full circle, that community pride is what we are looking to stoke at United Way Suncoast.
Yeah.
We want to infuse that, increase that, and for those who are tuning in today, if you haven't found a way to uplift others in the community, visit unitedwaysuncoast.org and look for a way that you can help. We will welcome you with open arms, for sure.
Yeah, and I think too often, people are quick to judge or have an opinion about families that might be that close to poverty in a sense, or being homeless. And, until you walk in someone else's shoes, it's so hard to judge anyone else by what they're going through. dependent on education and what people go through. I mean, we all have a story, and you look at what minimum wage is, right? And I know they're fighting to increase it, but I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to survive. And
it is. I saw a report recently that said to afford a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment in Tampa, you need to be making at least $25 an hour. And we have people making less than 15. 15 is kind of the new minimum that we're trying to get a lot of businesses
in a few
to reach.
Years, right? I mean, it's not even right now.
And if you're talking about having enough space for a family, you're talking about $25 an hour. So.
Right. So what do these people do? Right. And then you have taxes and obviously everything else taken out. They're really.
Well, and I think it's important to emphasize, as you said, the effort's there.
Right.
These are not families that are looking to just get help.
Get handouts of any type.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just looking for someone to help lift them up and put them on a path to success, and they'll do the rest.
And it goes back to that, that quote I said, as far as don't just share your riches, but to reveal to him his own. So meaning, great, we can help them and give handouts, but if you don't help with the tools and the resources that someone needs to then, prevail on their own, because everything has to be, it's not just about today, that helps today, but, it has to be lifestyle change or mindset changes or something, or some other ways that you can guide them. And that's why so many of those.
Two of our other focuses are early learning and youth success.
Yeah.
And when you talk about changing that generational path, it starts with education.
Yeah.
It starts with making sure kids are ready to read when they start kindergarten. I don't know if you've seen the statistics. They're incredible. If a child starts kindergarten reading on grade level, they're more likely to graduate from high school, more likely to go to college, less likely to commit a serious crime, less likely to suffer from a drug addiction, less likely to suffer from childhood obesity. There's a whole range of societal ills that we can help cure if we can just help those kids between 0 and 5 have the tools they need to get off to a successful start in kindergarten.
Yeah. And it's great that we have data and statistics in a sense to even show us what we need. I mean, it gives us, and that's what I think is so great too, just about everything that the organization does is investing the time and the resources into having that information.
Yeah, we have a data staff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very driven by empirical data because
it's important.
We don't want, that's all a part of showing people that the United Way Suncoast is good stewards of what you choose to give to us.
I think that's the first time I heard that word, was stewards, was when I was reading something about Suncoast. But it does seem to fit because I think it represents just like a base of an extension of hands, in a sense.
And I think all of the nonprofits are trying to send a signal that you can be trusted.
Yeah. Again, we're so much needs to be done, and I'm grateful again to everything that you guys do. If you could go back and give young Ernest advice, like based on what you know now, when you were maybe exiting college, like what advice would that be today?
I think I would tell young Ernest to trust the process, to not worry so much about your future, that you're going to be okay as long as you work hard. Yeah. And I did work hard, but I think part of that was driven, to be quite honest with you, Kelly, part of that was driven by fear. I was worried about succeeding. The last thing I wanted to do, nothing against those who have chosen to do this, but the last thing I wanted to do was to have to move back home because I couldn't find a job. And I was petrified about that. When I was seeking to catch on with a newspaper, my backup plan was to get a job at Denny's as an assistant manager.
Right.
And people were like, you know how hard they work? And I was like, yeah, but I gotta have a job. I gotta have a job.
Yeah.
I have to have a job. If I can't find one with a newspaper, yes, I'm gonna go somewhere
you had
and
a
earn a
family
living.
to take care of at this point, right?
When I graduated,
okay.
no.
I see.
Yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, not then, but
Yeah.
as you make transitions and do different things, right? Now, you weren't when you got with the paper 18 years ago. I mean, how old are your kids now?
They're all adults now.
Oh, okay.
My youngest is 19.
Okay, so but I know that I think over the years, and I still am in this like hustle mode. I mean, but not from a negative standpoint, but there's so much to be done. And I think the better you do, the more maybe you're still on top of things like crazy because you want to make sure it stays that way and grows. You know, it's very hard to take a pause moment or, oh, things are great now.
Right,
I'm going
right.
to, no, I mean, it has to stay that way and grow.
I think it's important to convince this new generation that investing in your work ethic can pay off even if the return isn't immediate.
And I don't think you should expect it immediate. I mean, honestly, I don't think that is where, because I think those are not lasting, right? I mean, if you start slower and build differently, then you build that foundation.
Yeah,
then,
I would agree with that.
Right, to get to that.
And I think when you invest early, it kind of gives you the armor to get through the challenges that are going to come later. When I first started, it wouldn't be uncommon for me to cover a high school game on a Friday night, help with coverage of a college game in Tallahassee or Gainesville on a Saturday, and then come back and be the third or fourth writer on a Bucks game that Sunday. You spent your whole weekend working. So this is I have faith that this is going to pay off for me long term, and it did.
Right. And you enjoyed it, a piece of it. I'm sure it does get difficult because you are traveling.
I was getting paid to cover sports.
Right.
It was awesome.
Right. But it does get to a point where you are away from family, and it does take tolls, and then things, you're trying to keep everybody happy. And,
I think in journalism, that's one of the biggest challenges is balancing between work and family.
Yeah.
Because, we do work odd hours. And there is a product, especially if you're talking about a daily media outlet, there is a product coming out every day.
And deadlines. And that yes. I know if I'm just, it's when you add that to something, that anxiety level is there even more. And, I don't know about you, but I love writing. But from a writer's standpoint, I have learned that I don't always flow. I have to be in a place to flow, which is another reason why I block out the negativity. I mean, you can't have things. I'm quite empathic in a sense, so things just. You've got to. I have learned not to push myself. If I've got deadlines with something, I know I'm going to write it, but I cannot force myself to write something. It just is not as powerful as it. How do you deal with that, or what is your take on it?
Well, over the years, I've made some discoveries. I know for a fact I'm a better writer in the morning than I am. At night. Just there's something about waking up, getting that cup of coffee and
getting to it
and working off that energy. But of course, in daily journalism, there are times where you have to get the story done.
Right.
And I think one of the keys is to focus on the production aspects. Is this going to be the greatest story I've ever written? Sometimes you have to accept the fact.
It might not be. What was your typical word count in the column?
My Monday column, which the one was most familiar, was really short. It was about 500 words.
Okay, that's not short.
But, sometimes...
And that can be the hard part.
Sometimes it's more, I was going to say, sometimes it's more difficult when you have limitations.
Oh, absolutely.
People think it's
that's why I can't use Twitter.
Yeah, that's not hard. But, Mark Twain always said, I don't have time to write you a short letter, so I'm writing you a long one.
Yeah, you and I see eye to eye on that one. Because I think you're too passionate about everything you want to say. When I write, I do all the articles for the women or the features that I do, and that is the hardest thing. In fact, I'm changing up the way I'm doing them going forward because I'm too passionate about it. I take way too much time, and I do not have 10 hours to dedicate to 10 people to write. But, I do the interview, which takes, 45 minutes, and then I'm always talking too much through it, which I get so mad at myself as I transcribe it. I transcribe because it's part of my writing process. As I transcribe, I'm writing. But then I write, and I have 2,000 words, right? And in order to fit on a page, I need to get it down to 800. And that, to me, in fact, Pam, my Oreos, I left at 4,000. I mean, there was so much information Pam gave me.
The best writers are great editors. Yeah. The best writers are great editors.
Yeah.
And it has to be.
It's so hard. It's almost painful.
When you get the Blu-ray and it says the director's cut, I always get that. I always understand why the director wants to show you a longer version of
I never thought of it that way.
Because there's always stuff that gets left on the cutting room floor.
Because you can't fit everything.
Because you can't fit everything in.
Well, this was the first magazine issue. We had to leave some out, and it's on. You can go to the website and see the full versions. But Pam's, I mean, initially was over 5,000. I got it to like just 3,800, but there was too much in it. I said, you know, this only the fourth of it is going to go into the magazine. We'll have to put the rest in the site. But you know, that has been, it's the hardest part for me. But
yeah, there is an art to being concise.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe taking a quote from A.I. Oreo and shrinking it down to a sentence,
Yeah.
and trying to capture the essence.
what is difficult too is then sending things to other people, you know, for their approval in a sense. Pam was awesome, but you know, it's they have in their opinions what stands out to them, right? But you have in your opinions what you feel your readers and what you know you identify will be. You know, it's maybe not known, so it
Well,
should be known, and that's
You know,
always fun.
Those are
you know.
daily battles in
Right,
the
right,
newsroom
right. I bet they
between
are.
the writer and the editor.
Right.
And the writer's crying, "You're killing me! You're killing my story!" And the editor is saying, "No, our readers will be more interested in this." And I think the key for any editor, successful editor, is to be able to explain why they're making the changes.
And it's
if
success-
you can, and
right.
if you can put the reason behind it, then the writer is going to be able to.
And even with
accept
the
it.
writer has to be, you know, it's just like not taking things personally. You know, you can't. You got to separate yourself somehow from the personal aspect of it, and it's about what the readers. So it's a growth
A lot
process.
of the writers
for both.
I know are just wounded, myself included. Oh,
Yeah,
you cut. Oh, I'm bleeding. You bleeding.
I know,
you
that's so funny. Okay.
Well, you take pride in what you write.
Yeah, no, it's
you know
yeah.
that's.
Oh, my heart and soul goes into
yeah,
it.
if you didn't care about the changes, if you didn't care about what was getting left on the cutting room floor, it would take away from the value of what you're writing.
Yeah, I mean, it goes so fast. So we're about 40 seconds in. We're gonna be done.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love the
really-
conversation.
Great
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Like-minded individuals, and that's really what it's all about. And life nuggets, you know, that we
Well,
share.
I appreciate the opportunity to come in
Likewise, yeah.
and chat with you. I just pretended the cameras weren't there.
You did great. And authenticity. I mean, I hope I too, when I talk, I provide a safe haven where we all feel we can be this way. And,
Yeah.
and it's evident that we do. So thank you. I look forward to watching you and being a part of things for the future. Thank you. So there's so much more we could talk about. Thank you for being here. We'll see you soon. Until next time, never stop dreaming. Thank you.